Thanks, Fiona. You're watching South East Today. Our top story this evening. We reveal how a business group that left investors facing millions of pounds of losses received multiple COVID loans from the government.
Please tell us about the bounce back loans, Mr. Dabner.
Please get out of the car.
Could you please tell us about the bounce back loans? What's happened to the money from the bounce back loans, Mr. Dabner?
A former police officer is found guilty of misconduct for not properly investigating Wayne Couzens when he exposed himself just days before murdering Sarah Everard. Left high and dry, the trainee pilots whose flight school has suddenly ceased trading.
We paid up to £75,000 of his fees, which we were insured 2 or 3 times. There's no problem. The school is sound.
Up close and personal with one of the world's greatest artists, we visit the new immersive Van Gogh show in Sussex. And literally unstoppable, the 14-year-old skateboarder who ignored his parents when they told him not to take up the sport. Hello. First tonight, our investigation which discovered that a Tunbridge Wells business group which left investors facing millions of pounds of losses received multiple COVID bounce-back loans of up to £2 million before it collapsed. Joint Ventures in Property, or JVIP, told investors their funds would be used to purchase, refurbish or develop properties, but left more than 140 people £30 million out of pocket. Documents appear to show that many companies in the JVIP Group received more than 40 loans, each of around £50,000. Our special correspondent Colin Campbell has this exclusive story update.
We established Joint Ventures in Property in 2002.
It's a business that left a wake of devastated private investors.
I feel betrayed, really.
Because a lot of people's lives have been ruined.
It has been a very painful process.
But now, questions about the legitimacy of scores of bounce-back loans received by JVIP companies.
We're very open about the things that...
Run by Tunbridge Wells businessman Peter Dabner.
We've analysed documents filed at Companies House of JVIP's 140 associated companies and discovered more than 40 of them showed debts to banks, mainly Barclays' insolvency team, of either £50,000 or just a bit less. These debts, we understand, are COVID bounce-back loans received by companies that Peter Dabner was director of in 2020. In total, these bounce-back loans add up to almost £2 million.
The bounce-back loan scheme is designed to support UK smaller businesses.
As COVID shut down the economy, the government announced a rescue package for small companies. A loan of up to £50,000, simple to apply for, paid out within a day.
No complex eligibility criteria, just a simple, quick, standard form for businesses to fill in.
Trained accountant Vicky Harper invested in 2 Tunbridge Wells flats being renovated by one of the associated JVIP Group companies. But she was shocked to discover the company she had invested in had received a bounce-back loan of at least £45,000.
The maximum you could borrow was £50,000 or 25% of your turnover. So that would be suggesting that this company had a £200,000 turnover. I don't see how that is possible. If you're renting 2 flats out in Tunbridge Wells, I think with all the will in the world, you're not going to get £200,000 of rental income.
One of the eligibility criteria for a bounce-back loan was whether the business applying for the loan was in difficulty before the pandemic. Luke White says he was engaged by JVIP Group to conduct an ecological survey on a development site in January 2020, but was left chasing £5,000.
In this particular example, we didn't get anywhere with chasing the invoice, and we didn't receive payment for over a year. To get absolutely nothing back is quite alarming in terms of the state of that company and where it was. You know, for a company that didn't receive or obtain any bounce back loans or any money from COVID, we didn't receive a penny. That is frustrating to hear that somebody that then owed us money had received those funds.
Peter Dabner claims JVIP businesses were not in difficulty until January 2022. But this former member of staff, who requested we conceal her identity, suggests alarm bells were ringing 3 months before the first lockdown.
There was concern that a few members of staff had left, and with that was coming back the rumours that the company was in trouble and they weren't going to be able to survive. And it was best to get out if you could. You know, people being advised to, or a couple of people at least were advised to get different jobs or move on because it wasn't a safe place to be. Well, you know, you weren't going to be able to keep your job.
We're also one of the companies that...
We repeatedly asked Peter Dabner why companies in the JVIP Group had applied for so many bounce-back loans and whether the applications were illegitimate. He did not respond.
Mr. Dabner,
after questioning him about why investors in JVIP companies had lost millions of pounds, I challenged him on the company's use of public funds, totalling almost £2 million.
please tell us about the bounce-back loans, Mr. Dabner?
Please get out of the car.
Could you please tell us about the bounce-back loans? What's happened to the money from the bounce-back loans, Mr. Dabner?
Though tight-lipped in person, in an email Peter Dabner told us he refutes entirely and without reservation any suggestion of wrongdoing or fraud in the management of JVIP, adding that what happened to the companies would be fully scrutinised during the insolvency process.
Well, Colin's with me now. Colin, I know you've spoken to the police, Barclays and the government. What have they said?
Well, Kent Police say they are continuing their inquiries into circumstances surrounding allegations of property investment fraud in Tunbridge Wells. They describe their investigation as live and ongoing, and they say that's all they can say at the moment. It seems Barclays handed over 1.8 million, almost 1.8 million, to JVIP's associated companies. Barclays says it can't comment because of customer confidentiality reasons. Barclays does, however, say bounce-back loans were provided on a non-advised basis, with borrowers self-attesting to their eligibility, effectively approving the loans themselves. The government, they say they can't comment on individual lending decisions that were fully delegated to the lenders or the banks. But the government goes on to say they will not hesitate to take action where there is evidence of wrongdoing. We should point out Peter Dabner strongly denies any wrongdoing or fraud.
Colin, thank you. Exposure allegations